What is up, guys? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the first round of the playoffs. I think for most leagues, it's the first round of the playoffs for you guys. It's Tuesday night. We're going to hang out and talk waiver wire. I will read most of my waiver wire column for you guys first. If you guys do have questions, please get them in the comments, and I will circle back to those in just a few moments. So get settled in, get your questions in there, and I'm just going to kind of read some of the injuries that we're monitoring this week. We do have a few quarterback injuries to monitor. Will Levis has a shoulder thing. Not sure what his status will be for this weekend. Derek Carr, he's got the broken left hand and the concussion. I believe they named Jake Haener the starting quarterback for this week. So not really quite sure how to feel about the New Orleans Saints. I'm not super excited. Alvin Kamara gets a pretty significant ding, and we're not really starting anybody else on the Saints. So keep starting Kamara, I suppose, but it's not looking too good for the New Orleans Saints at the moment. Did they name Spencer Rattler the QB? Maybe they did. I can't remember who they named. But either way, we're watching that situation. Aiden O'Connell with a knee injury. He's out for the year. They're going to be starting Desmond Ridder. So those are your quarterback injuries that we're monitoring. As far as running backs, we got a lot. The running back stuff there's a lot of stuff going on with this position right now. We're going to be watching Breece Hall this week in practice tomorrow with the knee injury. We did see Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis both look good in his place. Kenneth Walker missed with the ankle and a calf injury. Zach Charbonnet lit it up, and he was fantastic with the backfield all to himself. So we'll watch for Kenneth Walker tomorrow. They play on Sunday Night Football, so hopefully it'd be nice to know by Friday if Kenneth Walker is going to play or not. Bucky Irving hurt his back again on Sunday that he didn't really play a lot, re-aggravated it. We'll watch for his participation. I think it's going to be a big Rachaad White little stretch here coming. So maybe Bucky Irving gets pulled back a little bit. Isaac Guerrero, they're saying that he's got a chance to play. I'm not really buying that. He's got a freaking foot sprain. He didn't practice today. They're thinking he might be able to do a little bit more tomorrow, but it's a short week. I don't foresee Guerrero playing. And even if he does play, I don't know if I want to put him in my lineups. I just don't trust it. And Patrick Taylor, we'll talk about him on the waiver wire. Jonathan Brooks, we'll pour one out for Jonathan Brooks. Torn the same knee that he tore back in Texas. He is done for the year. Not sure when we're going to see him again. Maybe late next year at the earliest. We're not going to be drafting him in fantasy. He's coming off of a double knee tear in the same knee. I don't think we'll be really worried about Jonathan Brooks until 2026. So bad news there for Dynasty. Raheem Mostert will watch the hip injury. Alexander Mattison, the Raiders, will watch the ankle injury. Zamir White, they put on IR. So we'll talk about Sincere McCormick. He's the running back that we mentioned last week to pick up, and he looked good. He might be the same thing as last year when Zamir White was starting for us in the fantasy playoffs and getting 10, 12 points per game. Sincere McCormick might be that guy for us. And he's actually been their best running back the last 3 weeks, and he's been running the ball pretty well. Probably the best the Raiders have been running the ball all season. We'll watch for Roschon Johnson and his concussion. I might have missed an injury or two there to a running back, but that's the major running backs. Receivers, George Pickens, hamstring. I don't think he's going to play in this one. I think he's going to be listed towards doubtful on my stuff this week. Lad McConkey with the knee and the shoulder injury, he'll be questionable. The Chargers offense look good without him, but they do need him in there to catch the middle of the field stuff and be the go-to target for Herbert. Chris Olave, concussion. They're saying that he's going to meet with some specialists this week. I don't know if he's going to play. Again, they just lost Derek Carr. And Olave's had 2 bad concussions this year. He's had previous concussions. I don't think it's wise to bring him back this year, but we'll see if he can return. Josh Downs with the shoulder. They're still kind of skeptical if he can play. Not sure if we see Keon Coleman this week with the wrist injury. You have Romeo Doubs with a concussion. I don't know if he's going to be – he's been out for 2 games, so I would hope to think that he can make it for this one. Cedric Tillman, concussion. We'll see if he can make it back as well. Rashad Bateman with a knee injury, and Noah Brown has a rib injury that we'll be watching. But they're off the bye. He should maybe be good to go for the Commanders this week. And then tight ends, we're watching for Dalton Kincaid to see if he can go. He's been out for a while. And then other tight end notes here. Dallas Goedert and Taysom Hill have been put on IR. We're not seeing Taysom Hill anymore this year, but Goddard could come back for the real playoffs. But for fantasy, his season is over. Before I get to questions real quick, I'm just going to read my favorite ads at the position, and then I'll answer some questions. We'll start with defenses. I usually go quarterback to defense, but we'll go with defenses. If you guys need somebody, I usually note player or teams that are under 60% rostered. I'm going to go Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants this week. it's Drew Lock in this offense. I really don't have a lot of confidence in the Giants offense to score a lot of points. So the Ravens should be able to keep their points down, get some sacks, get some turnovers, maybe get a touchdown. Ravens defense should be the priority. I do like the Jets at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, same thing. Mac Jones, not a lot of confidence in that Jags offense. It's in Jacksonville, but it's okay. The Jets don't really have much to play for, but maybe they go off with one high note here. The Dallas Cowboys at Carolina, they're playing better, especially on offense. The Cowboys are playing better, but the defense has their healthy pieces. At Carolina, I think that's a good play if you need somebody. And then the Commanders at New Orleans, just because of the quarterback stuff and just not a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball for New Orleans. If you need a tight end this week, Hunter Henry, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, Jawan Johnson, and Grant Calcaterra for Dallas Goedert. Those are the tight ends that I'm looking at. Receiver, it's a good receiver week. If you need one, Adam Thielen should have been scooped up a while ago. I like both Chargers, Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston. Again, we'll have to watch Ladd McConkey. If McConkey plays, that's going to lower these guys a little bit in my rankings. But if McConkey's out again, I think Palmer and Johnston are both going to be around wide receiver 30 to 40 in my rankings. If Romeo Doubs is back this week, I do like him. He's the starting receiver on that team. He always runs the most snaps and routes, and he should be. He's the Packers' offense needs him. They need their outside receiver. Cedric Tillman. We'll see if he can come back. And then some deeper receivers here for you. Elijah Moore, Ray McLeod, and Jalen McMillan if you need some deeper help. Running backs. This is the best. This is one of the best running back weeks that we've had in a while because there's a lot of movement at this position right now. At the top of my list, I have the Raiders running back Sincere McCormick. If you guys watch my show, you guys probably got him last week. Patrick Taylor is the other one, and I don't think he's a great start. I don't really trust Kyle Shanahan very much. I do like Patrick Taylor, just having watched him on the Packers in the practice squad and getting called up every now and then the last few seasons. He's been a nice replacement level backup running back, but I don't really quite know if I trust him all the way. I do think he's the starting running back for the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. And as I look at it here, they're projecting Guerrero some points here, but I don't see him playing with a foot sprain. If not, he's not going to be playing 100% very well. And they gave Patrick Taylor a touchdown last week. He did run fine, 7 for 25. He's probably my guy to start on Thursday Night Football if you need somebody. Otherwise, some guys that we're watching, Tank Bigsby, I think could be a nice low-end RB2 play. Braylon Allen, if Breece Hall is out, you want to start Braylon Allen. The one guy that I really like that could get some run, and I don't like the Saints offense, but I've liked Kendre Miller for the last couple of years, and we might see Kendre Miller continue to get more work as the season goes on. It's kind of a lost season. The Saints are still within striking distance of the NFC South, though, so if they win this game, maybe they keep playing tough, but we might see Kendre Miller get a start maybe this week, next week, week 17, something like that. And he looked good last week. The other Jets running back, Isaiah Davis, that's only if Breece Hall is out. And then I want to note, Kamani Vidal led the team on Sunday Night Football. He led the team in snaps, in routes for running backs. Looked good on his carries. He's a guy that I think, we're at the end of the year, young, fresh legs versus Gus Edwards. He's going to continue to look better than Gus. I like Vidal as a sleeper. Not so much to start this week, but let's evaluate it and maybe look at him week 16, 17, and then some deeper sleepers here for you, Jerome Ford and Jeremy McNichols. And then last but not least, the quarterbacks here, there's not a lot of them. I really like Geno Smith versus Green Bay. The Packers have been allowing teams to dink and dunk and get a lot of passing volume. So Geno Smith versus Green Bay, Sunday Night Football. I like Anthony Richardson at Denver, just with his legs and his big playability. Matthew Stafford, Thursday Night Football at San Francisco. You just got a healthy Puka, a healthy Cup. It's looking good for the Rams right now. It kind of feels like last year where the Rams got hot at the right time. And then last but not least, Drake May going up against the Cardinals. And there you have it. Let's get into some questions. Good evening, fellas. Harris, good evening. Good evening to Daniel. Jason, playoff time, baby. We made it. I only play in 5 money leagues, and I was able to make it in 4 of my 5 leagues to the playoffs. It's just funny, like the one league that I care about the most, that's the one where I don't make it. And I had one of my worst seasons of all time. So as you know, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. And for the most part it is. But, when you have that one league and it just doesn't go your way and you have a really bad season, I'm learning to not let it affect me as much. I'm learning to not necessarily not care, but to not let it affect me as much. And that's why we play in other leagues. It's very hard to win a fantasy championship. You got to have a few different teams to try and get there, but it is frustrating. But again, I play in a league where we've been together for 15 years. I've never won the league. I've finished second 4 times, so close. And then this was my worst year in 15 years. So it does happen. Fantasy football doesn't mean you suck. It just means sometimes it's just not your year. Patrick Taylor could be a good playoff ad. I think so. I'm not really trusting this Isaac Guerrero stuff. He did not participate in Tuesday's walkthrough. And then I also saw reports from Kyle Shanahan saying that he could get more work in tomorrow, but I mean, he's got a foot injury. They're playing on Thursday Night Football. A foot sprain, I for a speed running back, man. I don't really trust this Guerrero opportunity here. They do play the Miami Dolphins week 16 and the Lions week 17. So maybe Patrick Taylor's a 1-week rental and Guerrero's good to go by week 16. So I think for, at this point, everything's 1 week. We have to win week 15 to get to week 16. So I want Patrick Taylor on my teams, especially if you have a spot where you can start him. Can I trust, good evening, JSC. Can I trust Sincere McCormick as a set and forget RB2 during the fantasy playoffs? That is a great question. I actually started him in a couple leagues last week because I was just kind of reading the tea leaves and feeling good about it. He did go 15 carries for 78 yards, 2 catches for 11 yards. He's had 2 catches in each of the last 2 games. In week 13 against a really good Kansas City Chiefs defense, 12 for 64. And he's running the ball over 5 yards a carry. So the last 2 games in a full PPR, he's gotten 8.5 points and 10.9 points. No touchdowns, but he gets Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans to finish the fantasy season, which is probably one of the best schedules, honestly. Like if you have Brock Bowers, you're probably pretty excited about it. If you have Jacoby Myers, you're starting Jacoby Myers. And I think if I'm leaving for the next month and I have to set my team for the next month, I think Sincere McCormick can be your RB2. This is a profile that, if I'm going to get 12 to 15 carries from a running back and 2 catches per game, I like that profile. Now, the really bad part is it's the Raiders. There's not a lot of touchdown opportunities, but, we've seen Alexander Madison fall in the end zone. Haven't seen Zamir White much, but we've seen Madison and Abdullah and some of these other weird running backs fall into the end zone for the Raiders. So now that they're going to Desmond Ridder, who has some experience, I think I'm probably just going to lock in McCormick as a low-end RB2. My weekly rankings are coming out tomorrow. My rest of season rankings will come out on Thursday, but I think I'm probably going to be a little bit higher on McCormick than most consensus sites. So I think I'm trusting him. Baltimore, Washington, or Cardinals. My preference, man, I trust the Ravens a lot more than I trust the Commanders. I know the Commanders have been playing good defense this year, and the Ravens have really not played great defense. But this game, it's just at New York Giants. I'm going with the Ravens fresh off a bye, man. I'm going to rank them as Baltimore, Washington, and then I don't really want to mess with the Arizona Cardinals, even though they've been playing better and looking good. Sometimes Drake May looks good sometimes, and I don't really know if I quite trust the Cardinals defense. They have been playing good, but, they just gave up 30 points to the Seahawks, who don't score a lot of points. I'm going to lean towards Baltimore here, Harris. Do you like holding second quarterback during the playoffs? If I have, Lamar, Jaden, Josh Allen, Hurts, Burrow, if I have a top 10 guy that I'm not really worried about, then I'm fine. If your waiver wire looks like, maybe add, if Tua is out there, grab Tua. But otherwise, I'm not going to worry about it. If my options are Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Will Levis, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Anthony Richardson, I'm not going to waste a roster spot on that. I think the better way to play it is to get your Patrick Taylor, get your Sincere McCormick, get your one of your receivers or a backup. I like stashing 2 defenses during the fantasy playoffs. So I'm looking this week, who am I starting this week? And then if I do get to week 16, who am I starting week 16? And then you can be 1 week ahead on defenses. So I'm not a huge fan of the second quarterback. In the one league where I do have, it's one quarterback. We have Josh Allen. I'm not even thinking about a backup quarterback. Allen or Davis this week. If it's me and say Breece Hall is out, which right now they're projecting him to play. ESPN's got some projections in for him. I don't know if I feel good about that or not. Maybe he just needed a week off and he's going to be fine for week 15. If Breece plays, obviously this question is nothing. But if he doesn't play, I'm going to continue to lean with Allen. Allen, and just pulling up my post-game notes from last week, they kind of split it right down the middle, 50-50, but it was a slight lean towards Braylon. Let me pull up the numbers here for you. Where are my Jets? Where are the Jets? All right, so the Jets had 68 total snaps last week against Miami, 37 snaps for Braylon, 36 for Isaiah Davis. So basically 50-50. There were 43 routes run in the game by the Jets, 22 for Braylon, 20 for Isaiah Davis. Braylon Allen had 5 targets. Isaiah Davis had 6 targets, but Braylon caught 4 of his. Davis caught 3 of his. They both caught the bell, and they looked good. 4 for 38 for Allen, and Davis had 3 for 27. And then Braylon Allen gets 11 carries. Isaiah Davis gets 10 carries. I think I'm going to stick with Braylon Allen, who they kind of view as the lead back, and they're going to mix in both guys. But I think momentum for Braylon Allen is there. They're both good plays, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Braylon Allen, who's been the RB2 all season long. And I would bet that if they do get, in a goal line situation, it's probably Braylon Allen pounding that one in. Patrick Taylor or Sean Tucker, I have White. If you don't need to start Taylor or Tucker, then I would go with Tucker. If you need to start a running back this week, I'm going with Patrick Taylor. But otherwise, with Bucky Irving dinged up right now, I think it's fine to grab Sean Tucker. If you don't need to start Taylor or Tucker, I would go with Tucker. I think he does, man. Thielen looked vintage, man. He looked pretty neat. He went out and got 11 targets, 9 for 102. He's been on a heater for a couple games now. I'm probably projecting him as like a top 20-ish receiver. I don't know how high I can go, but I am feeling relatively good about Adam Thielen this week. I don't want to say he's probably not a must start, but he's a very good wide receiver too this week. Double-digit targets in both of the last 2 games, about 100 yards in each game. There's going to be a touchdown in there maybe this week. 8 and 9 receptions. He gets Dallas, Arizona, and Tampa Bay. I like that schedule, and Bryce Young's looking pretty good. So kind of like that Sincere McCormick situation where if I had to set my lineup for the next 3 weeks, I'm probably going to lean towards leaving Thielen in my lineups. Taylor or McCormick in the playoffs, I think the question is, I would imagine that Sincere McCormick's going to get, and we're talking 3 games, weeks 15, 16, and 17. I would rather have McCormick for those 3 games than I would rather have Taylor. Taylor might have the best outlook for this week, but if Garendo does come back week 16, then it's kind of whatever. Even if he comes back week 17, you only get 2 starts from Taylor. And they also, they're going to mix in a couple other backs, whether it's Deebo Samuel getting carries or, Izzy Abanikanda or Keyshawn Vaughn. They're going to mix around. And I don't really quite trust Kyle Shanahan. He's always kind of a menace with how he divides up snaps and things like that. And McCormick right now, he looks like the starting back. They put Zamir White on IR. If I had to set my lineup for the next 3 weeks, I'm going McCormick over Taylor. Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams. Caleb has looked better. They're playing the Vikings. He threw for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Vikings a while back. That was in Chicago. This one's in Minnesota on Monday Night Football. So I don't mind it. He's had a nice floor. You look at his last 4 games, 16 points, 14 points, 26 and 26. I feel okay with Caleb Williams here as being the high floor, nice ceiling. Russell Wilson, a lot of that is tied to George Pickens. If George Pickens is not playing, I'm not super in love with Russell Wilson, even though he's been pretty efficient throwing touchdowns and looking solid throwing the ball. But I'm probably going to lean Caleb Williams here. I do like Anthony Richardson, but he's got probably the widest range of outcomes where I could get 8 points. I could get 26 points. If you want to go for ceiling, you play Anthony Richardson. If you want the safest, I think you go with Caleb Williams here. Monday Night Football. It's in a dome, so no weather to be worried about here. I think Caleb Williams continues to look good, play good for fantasy. And even in a bad game last week where he got sacked 7 times, he still managed 14 points. So in bad games, he still comes through and the touchdowns are starting to fall. So I would rank them as Caleb, probably Richardson, and then Russ. Yeah, I'm just not super excited for Russ this week. I'm going to go Kansas City, Baltimore, Washington here, Harris. I trust Kansas City the most. Top 5 defenses for this week. I do think the Chiefs are one of the top 5 defensive plays. I think the Ravens are another top 5 defensive play. And then I do like the Broncos at home against Indianapolis. Even though Anthony Richardson still could be a threat to put up points, he's still a threat to turn the ball over and whatever could happen. So I like the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Broncos as like my top 3 for sure. And then if you're looking around for some other teams, maybe it's the Minnesota Vikings at home. Again, Caleb Williams got sacked 7 times. Even if Caleb Williams goes out and gets 2 touchdowns, the Vikings defense could still have a turnover for a touchdown and a handful of sacks. So I think the Vikings are a team that intrigues me as a top 5 play. And then if I had to give one more here, I guess I'll go with the Commanders here. It was close between the Commanders, and then I'll give a shout out to Philadelphia at home against Pittsburgh without Pickens probably. Oh yeah, you got to pick up McCormick in Dynasty. And this is a good time to be picking up guys like that because so here's an example. Like last year, we were in the fantasy playoffs and someone dropped Chase Brown from the Bengals, and I'm just like, he's a rookie, maybe Joe Mixon walks and they let him be the guy next year. And I picked up Chase Brown and I've been able to enjoy Chase Brown all season. Now, I'm not saying McCormick will be Chase Brown, but if the Raiders don't draft a running back next year, they got a lot of draft needs. Maybe they don't draft a running back here. Maybe they go into the year saying, yep, McCormick's going to be our guy and we're going to find some pieces here. And if not, you can always cut him and let it go. But I do think he's worth holding on to over the winter and up into the NFL draft and seeing what happens. Because if he looks really good, this is an audition for him, Can they rely on him to be their starter? We'll find out. So I think he's definitely worth picking up in Dynasty. Chiefs, Dolphins, Panthers. Chiefs for sure. I'll go Dolphins second and then Panthers last. Rank them for this week. Cook, Taylor, McCormick, and Allen. Okay, so in this situation, we're assuming Breece Hall is out. Because if Breece is in, we're not thinking about Allen. So I'm going to probably go... Man, that's tough because I like James Cook, but we saw kind of a not great game from him last week in a game where they got behind and they just didn't run the ball and he ends up putting up 5 points. But I'd lean towards him probably being a top 12-ish play. I think I'm going to rank Cook, Taylor, Braylon, McCormick. And I would play Braylon over McCormick because I think the Jets have better odds of rushing for a touchdown than the Raiders, but they're close. If Breece Hall is out, I'm probably ranking Allen as like RB 21 to 24, and McCormick's probably in that range, maybe just a tier below. So I like both guys, but I'm going to rank them Cook, Taylor as like fringe top 12 running backs, and then Allen, McCormick as like fringe top 24 backs. And hey, good evening to Ron. Dynasty League, I need the best option for the playoff and moving forward. Thinking of trading Kenneth Walker for Kieran or Chuba Hubbard. Who would you rather? Dynasty, Superflex, PPR. Wow. I mean, I do really, really like Chuba Hubbard. And he's been fantastic. And his outlook for 2025 looks really good now that Jonathan Brooks is kind of out of the way. He's been the RB12 all year, and the touchdowns have been flowing for him. Really strong numbers all year long, man. And if we can get that for at least one more year, I feel pretty good about Chuba's side. But with Kieran Williams, he is the much better value, I think, right now. You want the Rams offense, I think, over the Panthers offense. And just looking around, and you got to look at Blake Corum. Maybe he gets more involved next year. But I don't see Kieran Williams going away unless he's injured. So I think I'm probably going to lean Kieran Williams for this playoff stretch. And then in 2025, like I do have to worry about Blake Corum getting involved more next year. Man, this is tough, my man. I'm curious what you guys think in the chat. I might be crazy, but I'm kind of thinking Chuba Hubbard here. But I could go either way. I think this is a really fair trade for both ways. I usually don't like to look out too far. And I think with Chuba and Kieran, I can't really see 2026 very clearly because, sure, you could have Blake Corum maybe starting for the Rams in 2026. You can maybe have Jonathan Brooks starting for the Panthers in 2026. But we did get a contract for Chuba, which locks him in, I think, for at least the next couple of years. So I think I'm going to lean Chuba Hubbard here, but it's very close. Would you rather roster handcuff running backs or random receivers that will not start? Handcuff running backs. Handcuff running backs for sure. My highest paid league is only, I had a really bad year in my most important league. Of course, I took Christian McCaffrey, and I took McCaffrey 6th overall in a super flex league, and he fell to me, and I'm just like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And I didn't like McCaffrey all year long in August leading up to it, and I fell into the trap. Commanders, Cardinals, Falcons. I'm not super into Atlanta, man. They're one of the worst defenses. I know they get Las Vegas, but it's in Las Vegas. Shit can happen. I'm gonna go Commanders, Falcons, Cardinals in that ranking. I'm not quite ready to rank Juwan Jennings as a wide receiver 1. I think he's a strong wide receiver 2 right now. He's getting targets 11, 7, 5, and 8 since he's become the starting receiver here. I think he's a very strong wide receiver 2. He's kind of in that T. Higgins, that Brian Thomas Jr., Drake London spot, like wide receiver 15-ish right now. So I rank him very highly as a wide receiver 2. Not sure I'm ready to put him as a wide receiver 1, but he is a legit fantasy starter. Oh, I mean, I love it. We know the Chiefs are a very good defense in terms of stopping the run. They do allow teams to throw to the tight end, though. And with a guy like David Njoku, I do worry about Jameis finding success with him. But we're good for at least 1 turnover, if not 2. There's going to be sacks in there. The Browns, if I look up the fantasy points allowed for Browns defenses, they're one of the worst. You want to start defenses against the Browns. So I'm very excited about the Chiefs. They're probably going to be my number 1 defense this week when I do my rankings tomorrow. This one's pretty easy. We're going with McCormick. I do like Vidal, but he's not a starter yet. McCormick is the starter, but Vidal is a good hold. If I had to choose between these two, I'm probably going to lean with Vidal. Because I do think Vidal could overtake Gus Edwards. Sean Tucker still has to overtake a healthy Rachaad White, which I don't think he's going to do. So Tucker needs a little bit more to go his way for him to be in our lineups. Oh my goodness, David coming in with the Go Seahawks. It's going to be a good game. We'll say that. I think the Packers-Seahawks game, that's going to have playoff vibes. I'm excited about it. We'll see. It's going to be an NFC clash. Yeah, man, you basically got 2 quarterback starts last week from Josh Allen. So he single-handedly threw me into the playoffs in 1 league where we have him as our keeper. And we had a nice Josh Allen Sunday. I don't think so, man. A lot of teams, especially, losing teams like the Raiders right now, they're evaluating talent. They know what Alexander Mattison can do. I don't think it makes sense at all for that. Like if Madison's healthy, and it's his first game back too, so they kind of want to ramp him back up, and they're not going to go out and give him 12, 15 touches right away, especially when you got a guy that's running and playing well. And honestly, McCormick's this last 2-game sample of the Raiders running the football, it's been their best rushing lines of the year. So I think there's a legit chance that McCormick continues to get this 12 to 15 touches, and Madison maybe works in with Amir Abdullah as receiving back and getting some 3rd down pass protection stuff. I think McCormick will be the leading ball carrier. Maybe it's a running back by committee, but I still think McCormick's got the value. 18 PPR Superflex. I'm going with Love QB, Judy and Jennings, wide receivers. Barkley and Bijan's nasty. Otten at tight end, the two flex, DJ Moore and Charbonnet. Bench, Garendo, Pickens, Addison, Herbert. Collins. Oh, man. That's Nico Collins? We can't bench Nico Collins, my man. I mean, if Kenneth Walker plays, you can't play Charbonnet. But I'm playing Nico Collins ahead of DJ Moore. Honestly, I think Nico Collins he's your best receiver. So I would try and find a way to get Collins in there. And you know, if Kenneth Walker's out, leave Charbonnet in there. But otherwise, I think if Charbonnet's the starter, you're going to go Charbonnet and Nico Collins there at the flex. Brian Robinson, maybe against the Saints, is a good play, though. Man, this is a good team. We're gonna leave Judy, Jennings, and Nico as your three wide receivers, which leaves one spot for flex. So it's Charbonnet if no Kenneth Walker. Otherwise, you can go. I kind of want to go Brian Robinson Jr., man, against the Saints. Austin Eckler out. Like, Brian Robinson looked like a god 2 weeks ago. So I'm probably going to bench DJ Moore and Charbonnet and put in Collins and Brian Robinson. And then if Charbonnet is the starter, I'll put Charbonnet in. And hey, no problem, Ron. Thanks for hanging out and getting your questions in. I'm going to stick with DeAndre Hopkins here, even though, like, I still don't really trust the 49ers. You know, they just signed a couple guys, you know, Izzy Abanikanda, Keyshawn Vaughn. I still don't really quite trust Patrick Taylor. He's going to be a fringe RB2 for me, probably like around RB 25 to 30. I'm going to keep playing DeAndre Hopkins. I feel better about that. I have White in the last Tucker question. I'll still go with Vidal here, Harris. Corum or Joe Mixon backup? I have Joe Mixon. I'm going to go Corum because Joe Mixon's backup is Dameon Pierce. And I just don't know if we're going to get the production out of Dameon Pierce if Mixon goes down. Whereas we're seeing Corum worked into the offense a little bit more each week, and he's looking good. And if Kieran goes down, we're probably ranking Blake Corum as like a top 15 back. If Mixon goes down, they're going to use Dare Ogunbowale on third downs and Dameon Pierce a little bit running the ball. It's going to be kind of a weird, ugly committee. I'll go Corum. And so Harris is kind of asking questions like, should I handcuff my running back if I have the starter and the backups available? I don't think you always have to do that, because essentially, like, what could happen is, say you have Mixon and then you pick up Corum, and Mixon stays healthy, and all of a sudden, you know, you didn't need to pick up that running back. Whereas putting your eggs in two baskets sometimes is more helpful, because if Kieran goes down, all of a sudden you have Mixon and you have Corum. You have two studs. Whereas, you know, getting your own handcuff, sometimes it's kind of like a wasted spot until that player gets hurt. Whereas you have potentially a league-winning pick if the other running back gets hurt. So it's kind of works both ways. Pick up Taylor and sit Braylon Allen this week, or pick up McCormick for next 2 weeks and start Braylon Allen this week. Again, we're not quite sure Breece Hall is going to play or not. If it's me, I'd rather play. I would rather pick up McCormick than Taylor this week, because I kind of have a rule where I don't like playing fringe players, like fringe starters on Thursday Night Football. It just usually doesn't pan out well for me. I want to start my studs on Thursday Night Football. Patrick Taylor's not a stud. So I'll punt that position, and then I'll make my decision. You know, if Breece is out, no brainer, I got Braylon Allen. Otherwise, I can pivot to McCormick if Breece is going to play. So I would probably punt that and pick up McCormick and figure it out down the line. But we've been going good for about 34 minutes here. I do have to get out of here for the night, guys. If you do have questions, you guys can always reply to this video or hit me up on X, TikTok, wherever, and I'll get to your questions there. But tomorrow night we'll be going live 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you guys so much. We got one more question in here from Harris. Oh, we got Sport Dog in here too. I did have Nico as one of my two flex. I might have missed it. You said Judy and Jennings receivers, Two flex, DJ Moore and Charbonnet. Okay. We're going to get Nico in there in Sport Dog. I don't really care about MVS, man. It's playoff football, man. I'm not risking a 2 for 10 line. And as much as he could easily go 3 for 68 and a touchdown or something, I think it's too risky, especially with, not having Derek. If Derek Carr was in, it'd be a different conversation, but no Derek Carr leads me to, pause a little bit. So I would need to know who you're, weighing MVS up against there, Harris. But I don't really want to trust Marquez Valdes-Scantling in the first round of the playoffs. But either way, guys, thank you for hanging out with me this evening. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you are new. And again, 7 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night. We'll see you then. Peace. Got me feeling icy.